Hey, what's going on guys, TurtyWordy here, and welcome back to the next episode of our Forge modding tutorial for Minecraft 1.17. In this one, we are just going to cover some of the things that I did not manage to do inside of our entity tutorial, as it would have taken a lot longer and the video was already getting quite long. And the three things we are going to go ahead and do is the spawn eggs, the loot tables, and the sounds. So let's go ahead and get started with that. So, the first thing we're going to go ahead and do is the sounds. So we need to, as usual, go ahead and create a sounds init in our init package. And I'm going to make this final. And I'm going to create the private constructor. A lot of people have been asking why I've been doing this. And the reason is simply so that no one, either you or anyone collaborating on your mod, goes ahead and accidentally initializes this class or instantiates this class, as you know, there's no point in that happening because it's just holding constants. Anyways, so as usual, we need to go ahead and create the deferred register, and this time it is of sound event, and that is net.minecraft.sounds.sound event. Let's call this sounds, and that is equal to deferred register dot create forge registries dot sound events, and then your mod ID. So tutorial mod ID. There we go. Then we can create the registry object. So I'm going to be creating 3 sounds for our entity. That's going to be the hurt, deaf, and ambient. Obviously, you can create as many as you want. So let's create registry object, and that is of sound event. I'm going to have the ambient first. So example underscore entity underscore ambient is equal sounds dot register. Example underscore entity underscore ambient. And then we want a supplier of a new sound event. And that takes in a resource location. So let's put in a new resource location. Okay. And obviously the first parameter will be our mod ID. That is the identifier. So it's tutorialmod.modid. And then it's going to be entity.example underscore entity.ambient, and I'll explain this in a second. So I'm just going to go ahead and create the hurt and deaf as well, and then I will explain exactly what's going on here. Okay, just before I go through all of these, I messed this up. It needs to be entity.example entity.hurt. So basically it needs to be the same thing both here and here, so that should be entity and then dot your entity name and then dot the action that is happening. So just replace that for all of those. There we go. I have created all 3 sounds, so let's explain exactly what's happening here. So as normal, we go ahead and create the registry object by using sounds.register. Now in here, this is what it is registered as. So it is registered as entity.example underscore entity.ambient. Now if we come down to here, we go ahead and create a new sound event which takes in a resource location. Now the first thing in the resource location is the identifier, so the mod ID. Basically what happens here is it looks in our assets for this this string right here. So it looks for our mod ID inside of assets. So it locates assets.tutorialmod. Then it looks for a file which we're going to create right now called sounds.json, which is in the root of our assets tutorial mod. And inside of assets.tutorialmod, inside of the sounds.json, it looks for an object with the name entity.exampleentity.ambient. So if we go into here, we can create the normal JSON thing, and then it looks for an object with entity.example_entity.ambient. Okay, and obviously this is just an object, just a normal JSON object, and it looks for that basically. And then this right here is basically the same thing, so it's just a double reference. This is basically just what it's registered as, but it's best to keep them the same as each other in order to not cause any confusion. So let's go back into the sounds.json that we just created, and we need to fill this out a little bit. So in here we actually need to specify the sounds. So let's go sounds, and this is just an array, since you can have multiple different options of the sound that will play. And in here you can, well, you have a few options. Well, you have two options. So you can actually create an object for the sound and give it like a name. So the name of ours would be tutorial mod example_entity_def, and then obviously you can give it like a volume, a pitch, all these different things. Or you can simply just put tutorial mod example_entity_ambient. The only reason you would create an object in here for it is if you wanted a different pitch or volume. Another thing about sounds, which I haven't mentioned yet, but I should mention, is that you should have them be mono. So you should have them as a mono channel if you want it to have attenuation. So that's basically, attenuation is basically the further away you get, the quieter it will get. And it needs to be mono for that to happen. So only have one audio channel. If it has stereo, then it's always played at the player's location. So it's more for background music or, you know, ambient sounds. Mono is just for other sounds that should have a location. And that's just how the OpenAL library works. So that's what Minecraft uses for sounds. Obviously, the other thing you can specify in here is a subtitle if you want. I'm not entirely sure what the subtitle is for, but you can specify it if you know what it does. Let's just create 3 of these objects for each of our sounds. And let's replace these right here. So let's do def and def, and then hertz. So it's in alphabetical order. That's what we like to see. There we go. So those are our 3 sounds inside of here. The next thing you need to do is actually create our sounds, so put them in here. And I'm going to do that by creating a new package for .sounds. And in this package, we need to go ahead and put the sounds. So I'm going to go ahead and grab those from my drive. Here we go. So I have 3 sounds. Obviously they need to be .oggs. That's just what Minecraft needs. Now these are stupid names, so obviously I need to make sure I rename them as the same thing we put in the sounds JSON. So let's refactor, rename, example_entity_ambient. So it's basically this name right here, but without the tutorial mod, of course. And let's refactor, rename, example_entity_hurt. And let's refactor, rename, example_entity_depth. I'm not sure what sounds each of these are. They're going to be really strange, but don't worry about it too much. Obviously, you will choose your own sounds. The last thing I need to go ahead and do is obviously make sure our entity has a reference to these sounds. So let's go into our entity, and in this get ambient sound method, we can do sound init dot example entity ambient dot get, and obviously the same for def and the same for hurt. So let's do def, there we go, and hurt. Obviously you can make this based on the damage source if you want. I'm not going to bother, that's way too much effort, to be honest. I'm sure if you were making a proper fully polished mod you might do that, I guess. I can't think of any vanilla mobs that do that, but I guess I know some do it based on, like, if they're drowning they have different sounds. I guess maybe that's just what it's used for. But yeah, those are the sounds. The next thing is spawn eggs. Let's go ahead and do spawn eggs, shall we? So let's go ahead into our core, into our init, and into item init. Oh, wait. No, we need to register sounds. So we need to do that, obviously, in our main class constructor. That's very important. So sound init.sounds. Oh. Sound init.sounds.register, and then the bus. Just like that. Okay, now we can go ahead and do spawn eggs. So if we go into item init, in here we can go ahead and create a spawn egg item. So that is just a public static final registry object, and this is going to be of forge spawn egg item, and we'll just call this example underscore entity underscore spawn underscore egg. Rather long, but that's just how it is. Obviously that's items.register example underscore entity underscore spawn underscore egg, and then a supplier of a new forge spawn egg item, and this takes in first a supplier of our entity type. So for this we can simply just do entity init dot example entity. Now the reason we can do this is because if we go ahead and look at our example entity, you'll see that this is a registry object. Now a registry object is just a supplier. If you look right here, it's literally just a supplier and a string. So if you go into registry object, you'll see that it just implements supplier. That's it. It implements supplier and it holds a name, and that's it. So we can literally just refer straight to that field. We don't have to call .get. The next thing we can do is the two colors, so primary color and the secondary color. So I'm going to go ahead and get up a hexadecimal color picker. Okay, I'm going to turn off dark reader so that we have the correct colors. Okay, and we can just grab a random one. So here we go, hexadecimal. Let's go back into Eclipse. Let's go to the primary color first. So 0x and then that. Then let's go back into here. Let's choose another random color. Let's go back into Eclipse. 0x blah blah blah. And then the final thing is just the properties. So that is we can just do a new item.properties, and then we can do .tab and creative mode tab dot. I think they are in miscellaneous, right? I'm pretty sure spawn eggs are in miscellaneous. So yeah, we can just plonk it in there, and obviously we want to make sure the stacks 2, which is the max stack size, is 16. Since that's what spawn eggs stack to. I think, do they stack to 16? I think they do, but I'm actually going to put it to 64, because why not? I feel like it just makes more sense for them to be 64 anyways. So, that is actually a spawn egg. We just need to go ahead and do the lang, of course. So let's go into our lang. And let's go down here, let's create item.tutorialmod.example underscore entity underscore spawn underscore egg spawn example entity is generally how they do it, I'm pretty sure. And then we need to actually go ahead and create a item model for this, but it's slightly different than a normal item model. So let's just go ahead and create a new file in here. Let's create example underscore entity underscore spawn underscore egg .json, of course. Okay, so yeah, this is going to be slightly different. So we can just specify the parent as usual, but the parent is maybe not what you would think it is. So for the parent, it is item / template underscore spawn underscore egg. That is what you need to put for the parent, and that will allow you to have the colors. Now obviously if you don't want the colors, you can simply just parent off of item generated and give it a normal model. But yeah, that is that. So that's actually spawn eggs done. The final thing we can go ahead and do is loot tables. So first, let's actually go ahead and create our loot table. So obviously link in the description for this loot table site. Let's come into here, let's select entity, and I'm going to go to presets. These are not the entity presets. Are you good, bro? Type entity presets. Okay, that's how it's going to work then. Let's look at, I guess we can just do entities / and have a look here. So let's just choose something simple. Let's copy the Blaze spawn egg. Not Blaze spawn egg, the Blaze loot table. And as you will see, it's actually somewhat complicated, especially since this has a kill by player condition. You have obviously looting right here. Yeah, I'm just going to change this Minecraft Blaze Rod to tutorial. Actually, no, let's do Minecraft : let's make it drop acacia boats. Sure, why not? I mean, yeah, why not? And let's just copy it. That's what my loot table is going to be. Obviously, you can make that as complex as you like. So now we can come back into Eclipse, go into your data folder, into tutorial mod, loot tables, and entities. And in here you can create a new file. Just call this example underscore entity.json. Okay, and just paste it in here. And I'm just going to format that. I actually forgot to format the block one, but I think I can do that here too. Just makes it look a little bit nicer and more official. And then we can just go into our entity class. So common entity, example entity. And in here, you can just go ahead and you can just override the loot table method. So loot. Wait, maybe not, because it does use. Oh no, we need to override this get default loot table method. Okay. And in here, you can just return a new resource location. And that will be obviously our mod ID, so tutorial mod.mod ID. And then it's just simply the name of our entity. So example underscore entity. And that will just bring us down into data, tutorial mod, loot tables, entities, example entity. So that is it. We can now go ahead and run the game, and it should work perfectly fine. Okay, so oh god, okay, we are now in the game, and as you can hear, they are making sounds. So oh god. Okay. Let's try out the death sound then, shall we? Let's also test our loot table. How much health did I give him? Oh, right, like 30 health, didn't I? Very jarring sound. It seems to be working. Okay, the loot table did not though, but that's fine. That's probably just unlucky. Maybe loot table's not working. Okay. Oh, we can also try our spawn egg, can't we? So let's go miscellaneous. Here we go. Here is our spawn egg. Okay. It turns out we had it right originally. So in the default loot table right here, what we need to go ahead and do is actually create a constant for this. So let's create a private static final resource location loot underscore table is equal to a new resource location. And obviously that will take in our mod ID, so it's tutorialmod.mod ID. And then in here, instead of putting our entity name, we need to go ahead and put entities / example underscore entity. And that's the issue. Previously we just put example underscore entity. So I figured it would already navigate to the entities directory, but I guess it does not. Obviously if we run the game now, this will work. I'm not going to run the game. I know it will work. So yeah, I hope you guys did enjoy this tutorial. If you did, please do be sure to smash your face into that like button and subscribe. If you really enjoyed, please do be sure to share it. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next tutorial. Goodbye.
Yes, I got a new phone today. It is the Thomas the Tank Engine phone. In hell. I don't think your phone can do this. There you go. Yes, see, I'm talking to your mother.